There's a famous skula on Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. The Shloah Kodesh has a special tefillah that many people say, which is brought down Mefurish in the Shloah Kodesh Mesachtos Tomid in their mitzvah Ois Kuf, that he brings Libi Oime She'es Rotzen LeTefillah Zu Be'erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan Hu HaChodesh Sheboi Nitnu HaTorah V'oz Nikroim Bonim LaHashem Elokeinu, which means the reason why the Shloah Kodesh explains why Dafka, this is the Chodesh. Better we can say the Tefillah every single day of the year, and perhaps maybe we should. But why Dafka today, Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan, is the Zman that everybody says it, that the Shloah Kodesh says that you should say it. It's right before Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the Zman, Rosh Chodesh Kiyadua is the time that Klal Yisrael arrived at Har Sinai to Mekabel the Torah, and that's the time that we were called Bonim to the Rabbeinu Shalom. So we daven for our own children, we daven to have children, we daven that the children that we have should grow up to be all that we want and all that the Rabbeinu Shalom wants them to be. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes, understand maybe the tefillah, a little bit of a deeper level, and just the idea of davening for our children. I understand everybody here is on a different situation. Some have, some don't have. It doesn't make a difference. It's irrelevant, because everybody should daven for the children that they're going to have and the children that they do have. First of all, the Mishnah Berurah says it very clearly, by the way, in Siman Mem Zayin Tzikot Yud. The Mishnah Berurah says, I quote the Lashon, V'tomid tiyeh tfilas ha'av v'ha'eim shkur b'fiyem nisbalal al b'neihem she'elohim dei Torah v'tzadikim u'balei midas toivois v'chaven ma'oid, says the Mishnah Berurah, which be'etzim, the makor of the Mishnah Berurah is really the Shloah Kodesh, where over here in their mitzvah Ois Kuf, where he talks about the union of Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan, where the Chavetz Chaim says a person should bedafka, think about his children. Bebirchas Ava Rabba, Bebirchas HaTorah, B'shah Sha'omer V'niyah Anachum B'tzitzeinu, we'll get to that in a minute. V'chein K'sha'omer Uvoi L'tzion L'man Lo Yiniga L'rik V'lo Nene B'hola, as well as another time as well. By the way, there's another Mishnah Berurah, also in Kuf Chav Beis, Sikot Nches, where he brings B'shem the Chaya Adam, Nochoin V'roi L'chol Adam L'spanel B'chol Yoim, Shelo Yomosh HaTorah Mepiv V'zaro Zerah V'shekol Yoytze Chalotzav Ovdei Hashem Be'emes V'shelo Yimtzach Has V'sholem Psul B'zaroi V'choli V'cholei. He brings also Magen Avram, Reish Samach Gimel, Sikot Yedalet, B'shas Adlokas Ner Shabbos. Also, a woman should be davening B'shas Maisa for the children. Ki Yadua, the Gemara in Shabbos, Chav Gimel, Harogel B'nei, having a Bonin Tamid Chachomim. And Rashi says, Koyel Ner Shabbos, Ner Chanukah. These are all times that a person should be misbalal to have children, and when he has those children, to make sure that they are what the Rabbeinu Shalom wants from them in this world. So the obvious question is, before we get to the tefillah of the Shloah Kodesh, if it's so crucial for a yid to be davening for his children, so why is there no tefillah meyuchad? Why isn't Chazal, the Anshe Knesset Agdolah, made tefillahs for everything? Why is there nothing in Shemona Esra? Why is there nothing in Pesukah de Zimra? In any part, Lemaisa, that's miyuchad dafka for davening for one's children. The Belzerov, Pesachadov and Belz, asked this kasha, and he answered the following way. And he said, it's precisely because such a tefillah is so powerful. If the Anshe Knesset Gedolah would have put together the script of what to daven for, the Kitrug in Shemayim would have been incredibly busy trying to block a person from davening, having kavana, and everything else. And Mimela said the Belzerov, it's dafka during tefillah, we have certain times that are miyuchad to daven for our children, even if it's not a time or a headline that says this is to daven for your children. It's great on Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan to daven because we have the tefillah sashla. Good. But what about our regular davening? So he says, for example, during Moedim, when we say Mogen Yishenu Atu L'Dor V'Dor Noidu L'Chon Esapatil Asecha, what does that mean? Says the Belzerov Azoi. In English, it means that we should, the Mogen, the shield of a salvation is what you are from generation to generation. We should thank you and relate your praise. Zuk the Belzerov, you know what that means? That really means is that from generation for generation, we're asking, and not only us, but all future generations, all of our children are going to have the Hakara, they're going to have the Hakara Satoiv, this midah of gratitude to understand the Rabbeinu Shalom, to know the Rabbeinu Shalom, and to be able themselves to give tremendous gratitude to the Rabbeinu Shalom. So it's important for us to realize that there are many times during our day that we should be davening and have a kavanah. Again, for those that don't have, to have, and for those that have, however young they are, to be davening for our children, to make sure they are where they are. And the koyach of tefillah of a parent is incredible, especially a mother, but for sure a father as well. There was a boy that got thrown out of yeshiva, and the mother came complaining to the manal, the yeshiva, whatever it was, and she was really upset. You didn't tell me about this until now. You just called me up, told me the news, my son's being chucked out of yeshiva. Like, what's going on? Listen, we tried everything we could. Really? What did you try? We tried incentives and prizes, and we made competitions. We went to Gedolei Ador, we took him for brachos, we did a million things. We tried everything, that's it. We can't do anything more. And she said, you're making a big mistake, and I have a tiny on you. And the mistake she said that you made, she told us to the manal, the Rosh Yeshiva, you never told me. I'm his mother. I could have been mispalel. And my tefillahs could have made a difference to where this boy's holding. And because you didn't tell me, means you didn't do everything you could have done, because my tefillahs could have changed that child. We have to appreciate and recognize the koyach of our tefillahs in an incredible way for ourselves and for our children. A couple once came to Heilige Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, and they asked for a scholar. Give me a eitzah for good children. I want children with Yerushalayim, Baalei Chesed, Baalei Torah. They asked the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, what do I do? Famous Maisa. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says, wash every day with warm water. So they said, okay, that sounds pretty easy. I wash Negel Wasser anyway, so I'll just make sure I don't use cold water, I use warm water. So for months and months and months, they were busy. Every time they did Negel Wasser, they made sure they filled it up with nice warm water. Negel Gewaldig. They even were when they wash for bread, also do it on warm water just to be Yaitza Allah. It wasn't helping. Whatever they were looking for wasn't happening. They came back to Rebbe, they came back to Baal Shem Tov, they said, Rebbe, it doesn't seem to be working. So Baal Shem Tov said, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to wash Negel Wasser, or that's not what I meant. Wash your face with the tears that you have to daven for your children. And that's what the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh said. How many Gedolim said, Chassam Sofer, Kiveiga, and many others. I think Ramesh Shtambach also says that now. One time Ramesh Shtambach said he was asking a kasha in Sheh when he was a bocha already. He was a ilu of a bocha. He asked a Sheh, he asked a good kasha. And the Rebbe said, that's not your kasha. And he was shocked. Ramesh Shtambach, he doesn't lie. Like, this is my kasha. I didn't steal it from somebody else. And look up some, sefer or whatever it is and ask the Rebbe a good kasha. This is my kasha. He couldn't believe it. The Rebbe said that. The Rebbe after explained to him, that's not what I meant. I thought it was your kasha. But it was because of your mother's tears that you were able to ask such a kasha. Because you had the tefillahs of your parents behind you, gave you the ability to be who you were. Chassam Sofer said there wasn't a tefillah, Shemona Esrei that went by without his tears falling down his face, being mispalel for his children. And he said he remembers his mother doing exactly the same. And he said his schus of being the Chassam Sofer was only b'schus of his mother's tears. There's a word called Sfas Emes. The Sfas Emes, the beginning of Parshas Mekates, talks about Gvaldig Yisoid. It talks about by Yosef HaTzadik in the time that Klal Yisrael going down to Mitzrayim and the sugya over there. The Sfas Emes says there were 7 years of plenty in Mitzrayim right before the 7 years of the famine, of the hunger began. And the reason, says the Sfas Emes, of course, logically was that the Rabban Shem gave 7 years of plenty for a person to be able to prepare himself for the years that come afterwards. So the Sfas Emes says a gewaldige Zach. The Sfas Emes says, and this applies to Chinuch, it applies to everything, all stages of our lives. The Chinuch says that the Rabban Shem has given every single person 7 years, doesn't have to mean 7 in number, but a certain amount of time to prepare himself, to familiarize himself with what he needs to do. And he needs to utilize those years to be able to prepare himself to what's coming in the future. And you hear sometimes from people, I hear specifically, from a lot of people that I deal with around the world when I travel, or emails that I receive from people who are much older, if only I would have known, if only someone would have told us. I hear this all the time. So I feel it's my duty, I feel it's my chiyuv to share it with the olam here. I share it sometimes with the boys also downstairs. And be'emes, I could have given this shit also downstairs for the boys. There's no reason, just because they're not married, there's no reason why they shouldn't hit the same thing. The Rabbeinu Shem gives a person the opportunity to work on himself, which we'll speak about in a moment, to prepare himself for the years that are about to come, and who knows what's going to be, who knows what the future is going to bring. So many of you over here are young. Whether you do have, you don't have, the Rabbeinu Shem should give you all iter b'zmana at the right time. Everyone should be healthy and well, b'siyata d'shmaya. But whenever that time comes, there are always going to be challenges. I know that from the Mesillas Yesharim. Mesillas Yesharim says in Perek Aleph, Kol Inyoni Olam Nisayonis Hem La'Adam. Everything's in the Nisayon. Everyone has different Nisayonis, everyone has different challenges, but everyone gets challenges at some point. The years that you have now, the years to prepare yourself to be able to cope with those challenges, to be able to invest in yourself, which is investing in your chinuch. The Medrash, in Shir HaShirim, Moedika Medrash, Mamish negate to this time of year. The Medrash says that at the time of Kabbalah Satorah, the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted arvus. He wanted a guarantor. Who's going to keep the Torah? Where's it going to go? Who's going to make sure that it continues throughout the generations? So Klal Yisrael answered the Rabbeinu Shalom, don't worry, our Avosenu, our ancestors, that's going to be our guarantor. They're going to guarantee that Torah is going to continue. Tells us the Medrash no. The Rabbeinu Shalom was not satisfied with that answer. It's not good enough. Until Klal Yisrael said, okay, fine, our children, they will continue the Messiah, they'll continue the tradition, they'll continue Torah to the rest of the generations of the world. And then the Medrash says, the Rabbeinu Shalom was satisfied and said, Gevaldik. What's the pshat? The pshat is that the Rabbeinu Shalom wanted to know who's going to continue the Torah. To say that your parents or grandparents, Moedik, Gevaldik, they did it already. But Torah is not B'Yerusha. Torah is not B'Yerusha. My Rosh Hashiva, Reb Chaim Ben Chashayim Zatzal, always used to tell us, I remember this vividly, he used to tell us in drashos all the time, Torah is not B'Yerusha, or B'Avas HaTorah. That's B'Yerusha. The fact that your father knew Kol HaTorah Kula and Shas and Bavli Yerushalmi, and it's very beautiful. That doesn't mean that the child is going to get it afterwards. Torah is not B'Yerusha, or the Avas HaTorah. That's B'Yerusha. That means a person has to work on himself to become who he can become so that it can continue. And that's the Avtacha that the Medrash and Shir HaShirim is telling us. When Klal Yisrael makabel on themselves, we will make sure that our children will also be involved in Torah, have a shaykhus to Torah, enjoy Torah. That's when the Rabbeinu Shalom says, okay, now I know there's going to be a continuous chain throughout all the generations. My mashkiach, Reb Noach Orlovik Shlita, always used to tell us also, when it comes to these things, and again, this is something we have to work on now. Don't wait till the kids are 10, 15, 20, 25. It's often too late then. It's all the early years. Now the chinuch is over way earlier than it used to be. They used to say 16, 17, 18, now already between 9 and 13 already. They say the chinuch is pretty much over at that stage because, well, whatever, not for now, but we'll discuss it a different time. We'll see if the olim are interested. But upon him, Reb Noach Orlovik always used to tell us, a big baki in chinuch from mamish around the world. He used to say, you have to make sure that you and your children have a love for Torah. Because if you or your children don't have a love for Torah, everyone needs a love for something. You need to be attached to something. You need to have a love for something. And if it's not Torah, it's going to be something else, and that something else is going to be dangerous. So make sure that you instill within yourself. And it takes time, it takes effort, it takes a tremendous amount of effort. There's no shaila. Chinuch is tremendous. But the reward, the understanding of what the Rabbeinu Shalom put us in the world in order to accomplish is unbelievable. The Torah says, Parshas Vayera, Yudches Yotes, Ki yedativ lemana sheyitzav es bonov, ve'es beisoy achwa v'shomu derech Hashem, la'asoi tztoko mishmor leman hovi Hashem al Avram, es asher diber olav. Rashi says on the words Ki yedativ, it means loshen chiba. How much love the Rabbeinu Shalom had for Avraham Avinu. Rav Aaron Leib Zatzal used to explain on this Rashi. Rav Aaron Leib used to say, how was it that Avraham Avinu reached the level where the Rabbeinu Shalom cherished him? He loved him so much. Where did he get that from? Rav Aaron Leib said, oh, very simple. It wasn't from his acts of tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, jumping into the furnace, almost shechting his son Yitzchak. That wasn't it. And you see it from this pasuk, Rav Aaron Leib said. You look at this pasuk, look at the taich of this pasuk. Rashi says it over here. He doesn't say it any other place. He says it over here. Why? It was because he invested himself in the chinuch of his children. That's why he's got the Lashon Chiba Ki Yedativ. That's Rashi over here. We don't find that anywhere else. And that's Rav Aaron Leib is why he got it over here. Not by the Kivshan Eish, not by the Akedas Yitzchak. Only over here when he invested time in his children. That's what it is. Now, just to make one horror on the tefillah, which again you could say now, you could say every day. This tefillah Shlach Kodesh is unbelievable. If you notice over here, and by the way, we say the same Lashon also in Berchas HaTorah as well. Kidei Right? We asked the Rabbeinu Shalom, you created us, you wanted us to have children. We're asking that all of this should happen. Kidei sheniya anachnu v'tzetzei kol amcho beis Yisrael yodei shemecha v'lo yodei Yisrael. The purpose of the whole thing is that us and all future offspring should know you and learn your Torah. It sounds like that's the goal, which means it all begins in us. It starts in us. That means we include ourselves in everything. That means real chinuch doesn't begin when we have children that are of the age of chinuch. But real chinuch begins when we exercise ourselves. We understand ourselves. We're truthful within ourselves. We get ourselves. We're open within ourselves. When we're working on our neshama, that's the real chinuch. And then, through that, you can come to the next stage, which is to mechanech your children. Right? A simple thing, a mother stays up all night to look after her baby that's crying, that's not well, whatever it is teaching her to be a balas chesed. A man that takes his son to the hospital in the middle of the night, he loses the night sleep and has to go to work or koil the next morning, and he doesn't sleep, that it teaches him to give to others. The chinuch, the very things that we do to our children, helps ourselves to become the person that we can become. So if you want to mechanech your children, the very first step is to mechanech yourself, is to look within yourself. The Rebbeinu Shalom could have created a pill. Would have been very expensive and sought after. A pill, give this to your kids and they're going to be good. Can you imagine? It would be unbelievable. But no, the Rebbeinu Shalom didn't do that. The Rebbeinu Shalom created us in a way, there's no diploma, there's no university or college degree that you get in order to mechanech your children. We trust you. The Rebbeinu Shalom says, you're old enough to have children, you're old enough to mechanech your children also. Okay, you need a bit of help from the outside sometimes, that's what we need. But I can put him to realize that it all starts in yourself. It starts within yourself to mechanech yourself, and then you can mechanech your children. I'll tell you a murdik avah from the Imir Chaim. The Imir Chaim of Vishnitz. The murdik avah from Nadav of Avihu. Nadav of Avihu, we know the children of Aaron HaKohen, they were killed. They were killed in the Mishkan for bringing an Eish Zorah, to bringing a korban, to bringing the offering, the Ketores. They weren't, Shaloi Tziva Hashem, the Torah says, they brought a Ketores that they were not commanded to do so. And the Pasuk says, Ubonim loy hoyu lahem. They did not have children. Zuk the Imir Chaim of Vishnitz. Why is the Torah telling us they didn't have children? What do we need to know that for? Stam, just to know such Shiva, like what's the purpose? So the Imir Chaim of Vishnitz, I'll tell you why. Because if they would have had children, we would have understood why they did what they did. It may have been asa, it may have been forbidden. But they wanted to show their geschmack, their dedication, their self-sacrifice for the Rabbeinu Shalom, for that Kirvas Elikim, we would have understood it. Even though it was asa, we would have got it. But they didn't have children. What were they doing it for? The Mechaim Vision says, Ad Kedei Kach, that's how it goes. We would understand that they did the wrong thing just because they had children and wanted to show themselves. You see from here that it all begins in you. It all begins in you. As Rav Avigdor Miller once said, of all the children you'll ever have, the best child you'll have is yourself. That's what Rav Avigdor Miller once said. And therefore, Maisa, when you teach your children or want to teach your children, remember it all applies to you also. And he brings a raya from the Pasuk of Bereshis. Eile told us Noach. That means the children of Noach were Noach. It means if you want to have nachas, you want to enjoy, get busy working on yourself. Because only when you work on yourself, that's how it can be. There's a lot more to discuss. There's many other yesodis that we can go through. But I felt this is important. We have to daven for our children. We have to daven to have children. And when we have those children, that should go b'derech haTorah. And the idea of what we're trying to build, we want them to continue. But also we have to start by ourselves. It starts working on ourselves to become that person that we would like them to become, and even greater. So when we work on ourselves and we realize who we have to mechanech first, we can in turn then try to mechanech the next generation as well. Shkoyach.